Welcome back. In this section, we will learn about how to add a toggle button so that here, our sidebar, which is permanently visible, we are in control to toggle the visibility of this sidebar. So for that, we'll have a button here. So let's just go and add the button in the header. So inside our app, we have a sidebar and a layout, and let's just go into the layout component. Inside the layout component, we have a header. So we want to add the button inside the header. So we'll navigate inside this header component. I'm using control and left click on the mouse to navigate inside the component. So here I'll create a button element and we'll call it toggle. And inside this button, whenever this button is clicked, I want to set an on click event. So whenever the toggle button is clicked, we want to perform some action. Right now, we don't have that action that we need to perform, but we are sure that we will have some action that we want to perform. And that action would be responsible for toggling the visibility of our sidebar component. So inside our app.js, let's just add a state for the visibility of our sidebar component. So for that, I'll use useState. So let's just import useState from React first. Now I'll add a state const is sidebar visible, and the second argument would be the function to change the value of this variable. So I'll call it set is sidebar visible. Okay, so this will be a Boolean value. So initially use state. So the initial value would be true. So initially our sidebar will be visible and we want to change its visibility whenever the toggle button is clicked. So let's just also add a function here to change the visibility of sidebar. So I'll call it toggle sidebar. And inside it, whenever this function is called, we want to set is sidebar visible. And if its previous value was true, we want to set it to false. And if its previous value was false, we want to set it to true. So we can simply use a not operator and a sidebar visible. So it will set it to not of whatever the value of is sidebar visible was. So it was, if it was true, it will set it to false, and if it was false, it will set it to true. Next, we want to use this toggle sidebar function inside our header. So for that, we will need to pass it to the layout component first. So toggle sidebar equals to toggle sidebar. And inside the layout, we don't need it inside the layout, so we'll pass it to the header component. We'll receive it inside the props. So toggle sidebar equals to props dot toggle sidebar. So we are passing it to the header component, and inside the header component, we'll receive it inside the props. So here, whenever this button is clicked, we want to invoke this function. So I'll invoke props dot toggle sidebar. Okay, so now if I hit save and go back to the browser where our app is running, we're getting an error props is not defined. So here we are using props, but we are not receiving props inside the function. So we'll need to add props here in the argument also. So now if I click save and go back to the browser, we can see that our app is running. And if I click this toggle button, nothing is happening right now. This is happening because if you go inside our app component, we are setting the value for is sidebar visible, but we are not using its value. So we want to display the sidebar only if is sidebar visible is true. So we want to render the sidebar conditionally, and the condition is only if this is sidebar visible is true, only then we want to render the sidebar. So for that, I'll use is sidebar visible and so okay, so this is a condition, and if the first condition is false, it won't evaluate the second one. But if this first condition is true, it will go and display the sidebar component. Now, if I click save and go back to the browser window, here initially our sidebar component is visible. And but if I click this toggle button, you can see that sidebar is not visible anymore. Now, if I click this toggle button again, the sidebar would be visible. Similarly, if I go to the component and set the initial state to false, you'll notice that initially the sidebar will not be visible. I need to fix the spelling mistake. False. So you can see that initially the sidebar is not visible, but if I click this toggle button, the sidebar becomes visible. So in next video, we will learn about how to create a hamburger icon for this toggle button. Thank you for watching.